How's it going? I've got my buddy Shane with me as always.
I love it, buddy. I'm glad to be sitting back down. Pretty interested in what's going on here around the world. This is going to kind of be an international episode right now.
It is. We're going to talk about the UK, Hong Kong, and then we've got some snippets from some podcasts. One on the right, one on the left. They're both wrong.
I can't wait to bring that to everybody's attention. Oh, both statists, just their own flavor of statism. It's such a weird world we're living in. But yeah, thanks for tuning in to Rebellion. It's a place for peace, liberty, and free markets. We're going to get to some of that stuff here in a second. I don't know about you, Banks, but I traveled last week. I'm exhausted, man. It was a good week. I had a little meeting in DC that maybe someday I will be able to talk about a little bit.
That's not nice because I know what it is and I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, we can't talk about it. We can't talk about what we can't talk about, but it was a good meeting, and I think you guys are going to have a good time with it once we can talk about it. And at any rate, but I'll tell you right now, man. So I was in DC Tuesday, had some meetings, and then I flew out to Nevada from the same day. I didn't get any sleep that night, and I just couldn't turn off my mind. I don't know if it was the riveting conversations I was having or the fact that I was just not home, and I was in that crappy city called DC, and I was just like, man, I got to be up at like 4 o'clock in the morning anyway to get over to the airport to start my journey. Had to go from DC to Detroit to Salt Lake City out to Reno. It was a long time. So I get there, and I'm supposed to have some meetings the next day, and my buddy was like, man, I'm getting called by the same guy. I apologize. I'm looking at my watch right now.
I can't hear anything, so
no, I know.
I can see your watch from here, but I can't hear anything.
At any rate, yeah, I got out there, and Nevada, Reno is actually west of LA. I don't think most people understand like how far west.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, because you've got California, it's west of Nevada. So how can Reno, which is in Nevada, be west of LA, which is in California?
Look it up on a map, buddy. It is.
You can talk to people. Yeah. I'm apparently going to consult a map because I don't know what a map looks like.
Well, but it's also in the Pacific time zone. So it's 3 hours behind. So I get out there and I called the guys and it's like, hey guys, I'll meet you in the morning, for our meeting and everything. And it was a fun trivia fact over there. Banks' face just kind of was like, holy hell, Shane's right about something.
So Nevada is actually like a little bit more north than I thought.
Yeah, it's further west.
And Los Angeles is much more south than I thought. And California kind of goes under Nevada.
Yeah, it's southanyway, yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
This is your place for peace, liberty, free markets, and geography.
And geography.
Basic geography.
So anyway, these guys are like, no, hey, we're going to meet up at like 1900. What is 1900, Banks?
It's 7 o'clock.
Yeah, what is that on the East Coast?
It's 7 o'clock.
It's
East Coast time.
No, this is in Nevada. We're going to meet at 1900, 7 o'clock p.m. on the West Coast. What time is that on the East Coast?
Oh, well, it's 3 hours earlier.
It's 10 o'clock on the
or
East
later,
Coast.
I guess.
Yeah, later. So I'm sitting there going like, yeah, all right, great. They're like, yeah, we want you to come with us. And I was like, you want me to come with you? I've been up for like over 24 hours straight now. I just got into town from a long leg. Man, all right, I'll come with you. So I went with them, and I'll tell you, man, I was struggling. I got a little bit of sleep that night, and then I didn't get much the night after because I had to fly back here. But man, geez, Pete, I'm wore out.
I don't think I've ever heard you complain about sleep. I have a lot of trouble with sleep, and often if I'm in that situation where I haven't been able to sleep one night, and then something happens where I have to stay up, that staying up gets me into this weird second wind, and then I just have trouble getting to sleep again.
Wow. Yeah, so I'm good. I mean, 24, 48 hours, I'm okay. Like I can handle life, and my brain, functions at least 30%, which is about, I don't know, only 10% less than normal, right? So it was a long week, but there's so much stuff going on. I mean, internationally, we're not even touched. I mean, a little bit on what's happening out there. I don't know. You saw Justin Amash talking out there at the same time about, hey, man, Trump isn't, redeploying troops back to America. He's just pushing them all over into Saudi Arabia. We've got about 20,000 troops over there right now.
Well, people forget. So those are more dangerous troops because of the fact that we have been Saudi Arabia's bitch, as Tulsi would say, and helping them kill innocent people. But we also had like 50,000 troops in Germany and 50,000 troops in Korea and 50,000 troops in Japan. It might not be exactly 50,000, but I think that's like...
You got a lot more in Australia these days.
Isn't that weird?
It's weird to me.
First thing, I really don't want to pay for people to do what? What are they doing in Germany?
We have 120 we're in 120 different 120 different bases around the world.
Okay, but what are they doing in Germany exactly?
Keeping the peace, right? And we're the forward shield for something happening in Germany with Russia, I think. I mean, who knows at this point?
There's complete towns that are taken over by Americans in these countries to the point that restaurants, I watched this documentary, move in just to service the military, and then the military decides to move, and it
wipes out a town,
decimates a town.
It does it here too. Same thing. It does that.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, it seems like it's worse when a foreign military is doing that to a foreign country. I don't want it happening here either.
You traitor.
But that just seems like I feel like it's worse because the people, like Germans there, must be like, damn, these Americans are here and we don't even want them here, and then they just make it worse by coming and going and destroying a town. It just seems weird.
Yeah, it's an awful thing. I mean, build up in a community around one of those things. Here's the thing: is I guess you're taking a risk. You're taking a calculated risk if you're setting your business sites on a military installation. I'll tell you here. You want some inside baseball from a guy that's been there?
Yes.
Yeah, man. You want to set up a business around a military installation? Do it at one of the places that's not going to go away. Let me tell you about those places. Like for me, as a Marine, I know that Camp Lejeune is never going to get away. Camp Pendleton, never going to go away. Those are the first and second Marine Corps divisions. Okay, those places are not go away. Those are pretty safe places to set up shop.
Sure, but I'm sure there's people already there, so people are looking to get in on something at some level.
Yeah.
You know there are certain businesses that are banned from being within a perimeter of military bases.
Oh, I imagine I know what some of those might be. Just from
do tell. I don't think you're going to get this one.
So, you
might.
Logic would lead me to believe that you can't have some auto dealerships very close to the front base.
So these are non-logical businesses.
Non-logical.
Don't think about logic here.
Strip clubs are I don't know.
So
they have to be a certain amount of feet away from the front gate.
Strip clubs, and in Georgia, pawn shops not allowed to be within like a 5-mile radius.
Yeah.
Because why?
Because young soldiers are going to go out there and pawn stuff off.
So these people that are trusted with like the protection of America have to be babied to where, if it's more than 5 miles away, I'm just not going to drive.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Well, I mean, that's the thing is you look at what those businesses are. Like, those are the businesses you don't want to go into around bases, right? The pawn, the Title Max, the strip clubs, the auto dealer type stuff. I mean, and here's the thing is you get warned about all these kind of guys that are sitting out there anyway. Like, don't go buy a car at 99 APR. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, and here's the thing is it's happened. That's why they have to warn people, because kids gone out and said, yeah, I'll take that loan. You're going to pay twice for that car. You're going to take $26,000 for a car that you can't afford once. That's ridiculous. It happens all the time.
Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah, anyway.
Man, I had a great segue earlier. I was going to say, speaking of coming and going, the UK.
Yeah, the UK.
And then we've got something else. But that is our first subject for today.
What's going on in the UK, Banksy?
So I think we did this on episode, I don't know the numbers anymore. I just guess. Like maybe it was around 50 to 70.
Okay.
But we talked about Brexit because it was supposed to happen, right?
Right.
By the end of May of last year.
Yeah, well, they took a vote on June 23rd of 2016 to leave or remain.
Well, that was the first referendum between people.
But let's not make any mistake though. That's how they run. Right? They quote unquote build themselves as a democracy in the UK. And so, my good buddy, John Rhys Davies, when I sat there and talked to him on the plane for a while there, he was talking about this, and I actually kind of watched a spot with him in it, talking about how if they don't honor this referendum from the people, like you've undermined democracy, and it's going to start coming unraveled more and more and more.
This is more than 3 years later.
Yeah.
And as we said on the last episode, we talked about they had a plan, and then it just didn't happen. And then they had another plan, and it just didn't happen. And then apparently there was a date. I think it was mid May maybe, that if nothing happened, they were just going to have a Brexit deal.
We're gone, yeah.
With no deal,
right?
Which is apparently going to be the end of the world because
they'll never recover.
Food and medicine. But it just hasn't happened. And then you've got people who are calling that there needs to be a new referendum. Yeah, and while we've forgotten about it here in America, this is still going on. And so last Saturday was Super Saturday, as they were calling it. It's the first time that the Parliament met on a weekend in 37 years. So hard at work. 37 years
since they were at war.
No, it's been 37 years since they met on a weekend.
Right, yeah, and the last time they met on a weekend, they were at war. That's how serious this was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Keep going.
And they were going to vote on this deal that Boris Johnson has called the divorce deal, and somebody put an amendment in to delay it again. And the delay passed 322 to 306, so pretty tight thing there.
Sure.
To just delay it again, and you have protests, tens of thousands of people outside saying they want to stay in the EU.
They were saying 2.2 million. 2.2 million. Have you seen the videos?
I have seen the videos.
That's crazy. I mean, to actually take a flight along, I don't know if it's a drone. It's got to be a drone or something.
Probably.
Flies along this route with all these people that are out there. It's incredible.
So I've got a video here. I might need you to fill time while I get it to the right time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so right now, I think the population of the UK is somewhere in the 65 million range.
Yeah, I think it's about like France.
The original votes when they had this referendum to leave the European Union back in 2016, the Leave votes had 17,400. I'm sorry. No, I read this wrong the first time. I was reading a decimal point instead of a comma. They had 17 million people vote to leave. That was 51.89% of the population. And to remain, they had 16 million, which is about 48.1% of the population. I'll tell you right now, for a population to go out and vote a little over, I don't know, somewhere around half at 33 million votes, right? Like, those are pretty slim margins for Leave and Remain. That's another nation that's divided out there. I mean,
it is.
I can't help but look at the world right now and see how many different nations are going through some real like identity crisis almost.
My second clip will actually be to make that point. But first, let's listen to Boris Johnson himself.
The opportunity to have a meaningful vote has effectively been passed up because the meaningful vote has been voided of meaning. I will not negotiate a delay with the EU, and neither does the law compel me to do so. Further delay would be bad for this country, bad for our European Union, and bad for democracy.
As Parliament spars, protesters.
So then there's this picture from a drone, we think, that just has so many people in there. But I think it's quite funny that they have this democracy. None of them are saying, oh, the system doesn't work anymore. They're all just like ignoring the fact that it isn't working. And he's like, the law doesn't compel me to do it. So they pass an amendment saying they need an extension, and then telling Boris that he had to ask the EU for an extension. He said he wasn't going to do it, but then he did it anyways. And then he said, I'll send it, but I won't negotiate it. They've got this 3.5 years now. They passed a referendum saying they were going to do something. It's been delayed. They've got all these agreements of how they're going to separate, but then they never pass. The system doesn't work. Like there is no law. This is all just political will and like what somebody can get away with. And some people are like, well, we just need to have a new referendum. We think the tides have turned. So does that mean that the majority the first time didn't count? Why didn't it count? Like, tell me through the legal process of this great democracy you speak of how this is working here.
It's not working.
Because I don't understand, because you just told the prime minister he had to do something, and then he said he wasn't going to do it. Then he did half of it. Who's going to make? where's the enforce? Oh, you guys are the enforcer. You guys are the last line, and you can't even get it together.
Nothing.
I find it hilarious.
I think it's a weird thing, man. I mean, to see all these governments coming unraveled and apart at the seams right now, where people just see it for its plain bald face, what it is. It's a failure.
But it's not even like they're not capable of going to weird scenarios, and the weird scenario for them would be, oh my God, the system doesn't even work, because in the end, if the people in charge don't agree, it just falls to pieces, because you've got this this is an NBC article, and they go in a dark direction, like a lot of the propaganda has. They say that the MPs want more time to scrutinize and possibly tweak Boris's plans to avoid the UK crashing out of the EU without a deal at all. This extreme scenario could cause economic pain, food shortages, and even civil unrest, according to expert models and government forecasts. Oh, the government is worried that if there is no rules about the government, that it's going to be bad. Yeah, I think that's what the government would say. But there's so much propaganda and like that there's going to be the end of the world if there's no deal. But they don't say, why would there be an end of the world? If the EU drops out and there's no more deals anymore, and they have food shortages and civil unrest, who's stopping food from coming in? Sounds like other governments. Sounds like the whole problem is just the government.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this thing.
But they all talk about it without saying it's like the emperor has no clothes. Yeah. It's like nobody is pointing. Everybody's looking at this like fat, ugly emperor with no clothes, and apparently nobody wants to be like, why doesn't the emperor have clothes there? He's pretty ugly. We should put some clothes on him. I find it very weird.
I think it is weird. I think how this thing shakes out too, in terms of the people that originally wanted to leave. I mean, when you look at how this is broken down through the United Kingdom, you've got Northern Ireland, you've got Scotland, you've got the UK, or I should say England. Most of the leavers are part of the UK. The remainers, is funny, are actually the Scottish and the Northern Irish for the most part. And to kind of see this geographically, I was talking about this with one of my good buddies over in Scotland, who is obviously Scottish by birth. But he's like, yeah, I think we should stay, but I'm getting to the point where I think we should leave, which signals to me that if I've got guys from Scotland who are, who have changed, and I mean, kind of gone in a 180-degree direction change, that they just want this thing behind them. And yeah, to see these government officials to, him and haw and try to come back so that they can, take another referendum so that the narrative fits their position. It's just consequential of whatever
it's the
government
people
is.
Clamoring for democracy, not respecting democracy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And nobody is pointing it out.
No,
because none of them are respecting democracy. Even though, and like I don't want democracy. I think it sucks. But why isn't anybody pointing out that people are playing a game and not respecting the rules of the game they're all playing?
Well, the self-perpetuation of government thing, man. I don't know how long it lasts. I don't know. We talk about even the American Constitution being somewhat flawed. I think these people are finally starting to see very well why centralization of government doesn't help you.
Some of these people, not all of them.
Well, I mean, obviously the people who can beg and borrow and be at the table when the scraps are handed out, right? So like if you're what is it, The Hague where the EU is? Yeah, it's The Hague, right? So
well, The Hague is the International Court of Human Rights. The capital of the EU is in Brussels, I think.
Is it? Yeah, maybe it is. At any rate, yeah.
But it's all part of the EU.
Sure. So
the things they're talking about in some of these deals are, okay, are we going to keep some of the protections, like workers' protections when we go out? Are we going to keep some of the and I'm like, how is any European country sovereign anymore when apparently you've got workers' protections laws that the EU gets to inflict on every country in the EU?
It's just like the States.
It's just like the States.
It's crazy because, that's the thing is people be like, no, states' rights. Man, states' rights in America has been all but nullified by the federal government. I mean, we are subjects. We are subjects worse than the subjects were to the crown when this country declared its independence, for God's sakes.
We're even worse, even though we're supposed to be considered states. You've got the UK who has to ask permission from the EU to have an extension to leave when they're sovereign. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
In which makes perfect sense in the eyes of government, right? It is whatever we want to do, we are going to do as government, and you, the subjects, will just come along for the ride.
In America, we identify with like being American, right? Even if you're from Georgia, maybe if you're from Texas, you're like, I'm a Texan.
I've actually kind of shrugged that off a little bit.
You're not normal. You're a weirdo. I'm a weirdo too.
I don't know, man.
Most of our listeners are weirdos.
I feel like more and more we're picking up mainstream for sure.
But most people, like, they consider themselves American. I tell people I'm American. I live in America. You kind of not with the government. You can identify people who live in France, and I've got pretty good knowledge of this, do not necessarily consider themselves European. Like, they consider themselves French first.
There's a reason why they still speak French.
Yet it seems that there is almost as much control from the European Union as there is from the American federal government, and people don't seem to notice it.
Well,
I find it crazy.
I think it's got to be because most European countries are already so centrally controlled anyway, right? Like,
that is a good point.
I mean, it's not, it's not like, let's just say, hey, France, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, France, welcome to the European Union. By the way, that notion of free speech, that's gone. That notion
they didn't have it anyways.
Yeah, right. Like it didn't really exist. That notion of you can own weapons.
That didn't exist already.
Didn't exist.
That's a good point.
Person, property, and effects. No, not so much. Court of law in terms of taking people's stuff. I mean, like.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point.
I just don't think it's that slap in the face. Like, oh, right, hey, it's really, we're not changing. We're just changing where our money goes to and who those politicians are that are going to make the decisions for us. That's it. Yeah. Still politicians, instead of the idea that every individual is an individual and they retain certain inalienable rights. Like that's a different thing. And the thing is we've lost it here in the States too. I mean, it's funny to me.
We're losing it, but not at the same pace. It seems that they're under. We actually might be at the same pace, but they're under some kind of magical spell where they don't realize what's happening.
Yeah.
Because even liberals and progressives here in the States kind of understand, well, I'm in California. I want my free healthcare. I get my free healthcare.
Yeah.
Healthcare. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it is. So the question, questions I have are, in terms of how this goes down. What do you think? How do you think this is going to go down between the UK and the European Union? Do you think they're going to get a vote at some point, or do you think
the new deadline is October 31st?
Sure.
So in a few days. So this delay.
So today is the when we're recording. This is the 20th. So this will be old news. Yeah, they'll be through their.
The delay is until next Monday.
October 21st, right? Is what you just said?
No. So the October 31st.
Oh, 31st. Okay, I thought you said 21st.
Is the deadline. The delay is to next week. So this week when you're listening.
Yeah.
And Boris has said he's a funny speaker to listen to. Has said that he's going to find a deal and they're going to get to a deal. If history is the best indicator of the future, they're not going to get to a deal, and it's just going to be delayed.
How long does this last, man?
I think it's going to last more. Like, I think every time you underestimate government, you usually get it wrong.
Sure. Yes.
And with nobody being willing, with the quote unquote leaders not being willing to call out the ugly naked emperor, which is when none of this is working. This is like, if we love democracy, we need to respect democracy. I think it could go on for much longer.
So in everyday speak, just us worthless subjects down here going, if it's government, it's going to take twice as long, right? So if we originally thought it's going to take 2 or 3 years, well, we're kind of at the precipice of that date now. So really, it'd probably take about twice as long because government's so efficient.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe we were off by a magnitude of 2. So 4 to 6 years really.
I'd say there's 3 possibilities. One possibility is there's a deal that passes. It's just going to take longer, and they're going to push it off. The other possibility is there is a new referendum. I think that so much time has passed.
Do you think they're
and there's not I don't hear people saying no new referendum. There's a few people saying no new referendum. We had a referendum, but the voice doesn't seem loud enough. And I think unfortunately politicians could spin it in, well, it seems reasonable to take the temperature again because, we're a democracy. We need to make sure we're respecting the people.
Wasn't that what the Brexit Party's growing out of, though? Like, the Brexit Party is one of those newfound parties that has really ascended extremely rapidly.
Yes, but the problem with the Brexit Party, and somebody else explained this much better than I'm going to do, is that they agreed on one global idea of Brexit, but then they've been splitting off on how to implement Brexit.
They're fracturing, huh?
And this is what is making the actual Brexit, because there's people who just want no deal. They're like, I'd probably be on the no deal. It's like,
I would be too, man. I'd be like, see ya,
guys.
I don't care what happens. It's got to be better than putting up with these guys' BS, right? Like, we're out. Let's figure it out, guys.
And then there's some people, because multiple factions came together for Brexit, and then there's some people who want this deal and some people want that deal. The guy who put the amendment forward is from the Conservative Party, that was kind of mostly pro-Brexit at one point. So it's very odd.
I think you're right. I think there's a couple ways this plays out where the UK never leaves the EU, right? I mean, I think there's that case. I think it's going to obviously divide the UK more and more, which, hey, great. People divided are easier to rule in the first place. Probably part of the plan. Or I think it gets to the point where you get violence, where those people are going to want to be heard, and if they get disenfranchised enough, what happens to disenfranchised people, man? They revolt, and a lot of times they do it violently. And you're already seeing it there. I mean, you're seeing tensions, especially in the London area, especially, they're heightened right now. And people that don't know how to communicate and are disenfranchised. I'm not saying it's one side or the other. I think it's just going to be everybody who's not being, not feeling like they're being heard, especially the people who are on the referendum side. I think at some point they go, the hell with this government, man. You're not listening to us. We're not going to do this. And they may pick up arms, and they may burn their city, and they may go after some of the government buildings. I don't know.
I think there's some risk of that. I don't think it's great, because I feel like a logical person that if somebody was going to organize more pushback, it would have happened within this time frame. Because for me, if you believe in the system, and I don't know if there's some people who are for Brexit who actually don't believe in the system, they might be like you and me, they're just playing what they can get. But I think most of the people believe in the system. If you believe in the system and there's a vote, and the vote wins, and 3.5 years later, it's something just as monumental as if, I don't know, we elected Ron Paul, and 3.5 years later they hadn't let him take presidency. I would not be using violence, but I would be one pissed off person. I'd be in DC, just camping out of in front of the White House. I'd have my tent there.
Your guy's elected, and they just, they just blast him on.
Isn't the presidency just as important as kind of if you're country is a part of a huge other entity? That seems like the same kind of level.
Super huge.
3.5. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, no.
I interrupted you. Sorry.
What I'm saying is, I think you make an interesting point even here in the States. I mean, you look at all these guys that are Trump fans, and their disenfranchisement right now with the media and with the left, and the forces that be, social media. I mean, you look at these guys are more and more disenfranchised every damn day, because their guy who was elected constitutionally has not had an opportunity to sit there and be president without some sort of nonsense hurled at him from the very beginning.
But
right?
Nonsense is part of politics. I think a lot of them understand that.
But I think
I think the argument is valid that the other side, whether it's the deep state or the left, whatever you want to call it, maybe it's one and the same.
It's all the same.
Has made Trump's job much more difficult.
Yeah.
But I think that's also part of politics.
Yeah, it unfortunately has become a part that is too common these days.
Both sides have used it. Might have been less in the past, or it might have been more, and it was just less apparent to us that both sides use the system in ethical and also very unethical ways. maybe it's all unethical.
Yeah.
To destroy their competition to gain more political power. That's what they do.
The Republicans did it to Bill
centuries.
Clinton. I mean, so
Reagan did it by having secret wars and making America a drug dealer and FD. No, it's not. Who started the FBI? Hoover did it by starting the FBI to spy on everybody. Like it's what political institutions do.
Yeah.
So
really, really gross stuff too.
Yeah, I would like to end on 3 or 4, I can't remember how many, local people who were interviewed on the streets of London.
Oh, cool.
Who had some commentary. And I specifically want your commentary. And then I have one point that it's not too original, but I think it needs repeating. So here we go.
You can't ignore this many people.
The people's power has to be responded.
We have children, we have grandchildren, and we want a future for them. It's in Europe. It's with all of our friends and family who are, we're all Europeans, and that's why we're here.
Well, I don't think Boris should be in power, and I don't think that he should have a final say. He's saying that Brexit, the people have spoken, but the people have not spoken.
You guys will not get me chest one day. You guys will
I know, one very unhappy person. We want democracy to be carried out. The people voted 23rd of June 2016 by a 4% majority to leave.
Many times in the last...
So the 2 first ones were pro-European, as you could tell. There was one in the middle you couldn't really hear. There were two people like screaming at each other. And the last guy was wearing a UK flag suit and was...
I think I've seen that guy before.
Pro-Brexit.
Yeah.
And he was just making a pretty sensible point. So what did you think about the 2 pro-European people first? One said, this is Europe. We're all European. Our friends are in Europe. This is what we want. And the other was a young girl, and she was like, well, I don't think the people have spoken because a lot of people don't want to leave. Both of them basically making the point, well, a lot of people don't want to leave.
Yeah, young girl first and foremost, right? I don't think he should be president. I don't, basically, I don't even think he should be president, right? Okay, well, that's your feelings for sake, come on, girl. I understand being politically involved at a young age. I mean, I was one of those kids that watched a lot of news and listened to a lot of AM radio growing up because I just couldn't get enough of it. I thought it was very interesting. Did I know what the hell I was talking about? No, I didn't. Did I have opinions? Yeah, sure I did.
Man, I wish I could do an interview of young you.
This girl, I can put on the hat and we can just play make believe here. But yeah. For the other ones, hey, listen, you want to be part of the European Union? There's a whole bunch of countries over there that are European Union. A lot of them speak English. Have fun. Pick one. Go ahead. See you later. Bye. If you don't, I don't know, man. This reverence for government is just God. How many times, people, do we have to just sit here and bang our heads against the damn walls and make these friggin' mistakes? Let's go. Let's get the lead out. Let's learn something. Let's try something new. People are so scared of new. It's the world changes. It always changes. Think about from the time you were a kid, even the companies that were around that are no longer existent, the way we communicate, the way we do everything has changed. Everything needs to change. And as the human condition changes as rapidly as it is right now, I don't understand the human idea that we can sit here with these same systems that we've had for thousands of years, basically, and begin to think that we're going to realize the potential of human beings with them. It freaks me out, man. It freaks me out how little people want to take a giant step into a better future, or at least
who don't want to take a giant step.
Yes, and then obviously,
I think what you're saying, it's fear.
Yeah, of course it is. Until they're made to do something, and they're like, "Oh, it wasn't so bad anyway," right? Seriously, in life, when you've had major obstacles, something you've really been fearful of, that there's no escape. And from the mundane, everyday to the extraordinary. I don't care. Most of the time, when you get through them, you sit there and go, that wasn't that bad, right? I know I have. I know.
No, I definitely agree. This is one guy who was like, we should do a podcast. We should do a podcast. And I probably said no 100 freaking times.
Yeah, that's at 101. And that's the thing is for me, a lot of the things that I've done in the past, whether it's, taking selections or whatever it is, man, something that I thought were conceived as damn near impossible. And sometimes, there have hardly been things that my mind hasn't blown out of proportion, that when it comes to reality, when you just get down to brass tacks and do it, it's easier. I don't know. For the guy that's sitting there going, hey, listen, democracy needs to be carried out here. Democracy was voted on. There was a referendum that won. We were 3 years behind. He's pissed, man. I can't say much about his suit, but I mean, we got guys in American flag suits. The Union Jack's a pretty cool looking flag too. Magic sky cloth and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I see that if I was that guy, I would definitely have more trouble. And to be in that situation too, right? Think about that, man. Think about if we're sitting here in Georgia and we've got this thing called the United States of America around us. It's a complete crap show. I mean,
it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, we're not part of it. We're not part of it. And, there was this folly going around a few years ago. Hey, we're going to join this European Union and everything's going to be excellent. Streets are going to be made of gold. Everybody's going to be fed. We're going to have Medicare for all. And, maybe even an income for everybody. Everything is going to work out fine. They get into this thing. They start to see that politicians millions of miles away that don't have any of their local interests are taking their money and do same thing that every other government does, right?
Yeah, they don't want to be told what to do.
A threat of force. And wait. We can have a referendum to stop this nonsense right here and right now. Let's do that. We do it. And everybody's like, well, at least the majority says, guys, we love you. You're a countryman, but listen, we don't want anything to do with this European Union thing, right? Like, we voted on it. Let's go carry it out there. Our overlords carry this out, and they can't carry it out. Yeah, man, it's time. It's
like when my parents didn't do this that I know of. Not that my parents are perfect, but I know that there were some situations where like a parent lets the kid make a decision.
Yeah.
But if they don't like the decision, they're like, no. So it's like
veto.
You're allowed to like do things. Here's your freedom. But if you make the wrong decision, you have no freedom.
Right.
And this isn't being done by a parent.
Yeah.
This is being done by this like non-entity.
Yeah.
I find it the two first women, the older woman and the girl, who are basically like, well, I want Europe. This is Europe and this, and very feely, like, well, all our friends are in Europe, so I want to be part of Europe. And she's just like, well, I don't like Boris and I like Europe.
It's a cool thing to do.
So they make one point that is true though, which is tons of people want to stay in Europe. And there's also tons of people who don't want to stay in Europe. We're talking about like tens of millions on each side, right?
Yeah.
Both those things are true. And yet we're pitting two, and so it's an impossible situation. It's a zero-sum game. Yeah. Life is not supposed to be a zero-sum game, right?
I agree with you.
Just because one person loses doesn't mean that a huge chunk of other people are supposed to lose. So what if we had the same situation in America? Whatever the outcome is, 150 million people would lose. How do you think you're going to have any like harmony in the world if you structure a system where half of the population has to lose for the other half to win?
Who are you
So is that why we're in this like middle ground forever? Well, if everybody's just kind of not losing, not winning, and in this waiting period, at least there's not chaos.
Who are you asking?
Who am I asking?
So my question to you is, who are you asking? So
I know it's kind of rhetorical, I guess.
Sure, but I think the question presented to different entities has different answers, right?
Okay.
So let me explain. So when somebody says, this dichotomy, right? Yes, both are true. These guys want to stay. These guys want to go.
Both are true in the fact that yes, there are tons of people who want that, and that is a valid like statement of facts, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with both of them, right? Hey, it's right for you if you want to be part of this. Sure. It's also right for you if you want to be done with this whole thing.
Okay,
right? So like, hey, the individual's right. I agree with you. The state will always perpetuate the divide, though. they will perpetuate the divide so that they can continue to pillage these people no matter what and divide them and keep them conquered. So that what was the question that you asked? It was like my question was,
how can we have harmony if there's a perpetual state of
who you asking?
One has to lose and one has to win?
Who are you asking? Because if you're asking those people, these guys can probably answer that question. Right? They can probably answer that question honestly and fairly.
What are they going to say?
Whereas the state cannot answer that honestly and fairly without being exposed, because this person's going to sit there and say, "Hey, like how do we make this happen?" Their solution is, well, maybe some of us are European citizens, European Union citizens, and maybe those people that are not. Right, like,
and maybe we change the phraseology so it works. Like, I'm going to be part of the European club, and you can be part of the UK club.
Yeah,
just like some people are part of, I know, a bunch of other clubs.
So
that seem to like coexist.
I love this because these thought experiments. I think about this stuff all the time, and I need people to bounce it off of. I would love to get your take. I would love to get the audience's take. I think about this all the time because my mind is always thinking, how do we replace the American system now? Obviously completely broken, completely unconstitutional. It does not work. There's the opinions and the arguments out there for a constitution of the individual, period, right? Like, you are free to do whatever the hell you want to do as long as you're not hurting anybody in terms of association, in terms of the way you want to live your life, the way you want to trade, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. This idea of the constitution of an individual, to where, hey, listen, you want to go live in a commune where you guys share everything and divide work, and I'm fine with that. You want to open businesses and you want to open, communities, you want to make a place, a destination for people to move that believe these things, I'm all for you to do that, right? Like, cool. And all these guys who just want to live on a plot of land and not have to hassle anybody, don't want any of your responsibility, they just want to take care of themselves. I'm also for you guys. I'm also for you guys that want to do that in communities, right? Like, what, as this banana republic fades and fizzles and goes through the death throes as most empires do through history.
So optimistic.
I'm not saying tomorrow.
I think it evolves, and what happens with a cancer cell metastasizes.
Sure, but it's going to kill the host at some point.
Yeah, we're the hosts. It's going to live on.
No, it doesn't live on without the host. Once the host is dead, it dies too. Like, that cancer's gone.
Well, then everything dies and nothing matters.
So, no, but humans aren't going anywhere, right? Like, humans are going to be around, and this system will fall. I don't know. I'm not saying when, but this system, we're starting to see the system crumble now. I'm not saying, I don't know how long this goes on, but when it's time for people to offer new ideas and be leaders in terms of the thought process out there, in terms of us, and trying to lead culture that way, is what would be a better next step. What is that constitution of one, the individual, is that a path forward for legitimate governance? And in terms of saying, this is what it is, you can't make amendments to it. Period. There's no executive power here whatsoever. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts.
I think that would be too much of a radical change for most people to even understand exactly. It's a little bit too. It's not concrete enough. Even though to us
it's too free.
No. I think they wouldn't even understand the concept. It would seem So what they're incapable of doing when the system devolves, like in the Brexit situation, right?
Sure.
Like, there is no law, actually, right?
Right. Yeah. It's just people saying, this is what we're going to do.
It's just people using like power.
This is what we can get our force to do right now. Period.
Yeah, and there's opposing sides, and so there's some conflict between, but there is basically no law. So what people are incapable of doing, pointing out the emperor has no clothes and really ugly, all that kind of stuff, they are capable of doing with something that isn't currently in application. And they say, well, how do we, like they do all the time when they question
how do we do it?
How do you prevent people from killing each other? How do we help people who don't have food? How do we stop people from driving too fast on the highway like banks? Et cetera, et cetera. So when it's more theoretical, they go to. I guess I'm happy they're able to do this. It shows their brains still work to some degree, and then they can be critical thinkers and have all these worries that for whatever reason they don't have within our system, but the worry is inverse. They just feel comfortable in our system because it's the default, and they're like, whoa. If I question it and I realize that it's actually, there isn't all the security that I thought there was, I'm going to feel really scared, so I'm just not going to look over here.
Sure.
So,
and as I play this out in my mind, as I see the fortuitous breakdown of the federal government in the United States, it will. It has to. it may slaughter a bunch of people before it does. And trust me.
None if I can have anything to do about it.
When this happens, what I see is, these basically outposts. Your Hawaii's, Alaska's, maybe some Wyoming's and North and South Dakota's kind of being of the first of the kind that said, hey, we're out. We're done. We're going to do what we want to do up here. And the thing is without central control, without the power or the funding or anything like that to be able to send government agents out there to eat out their substance, as they said in the Declaration of Independence, right? It really lends itself to this new petri dish, this way of life that America hasn't seen in over 200 years.
So it's the same system. It's just more decentralized, which is better for individual freedom, as we know. But it's still the same system. Nobody's changing something fundamentally.
It's this natural reset that happens, right? I mean, it's
an evolution. I don't think it's a reset. A reset would be you start from scratch. This is not starting from scratch. This is literally like taking off a piece of the tumor, and so you're better, but it's still the same. Like within the states, it's going to be the same affair. Like if the state of Georgia does some of the same things that the federal government does.
I agree.
To its citizens, right?
Yeah.
Puts them in jail, takes their money, tells them they're not allowed to do peaceful things.
Do you think they can do that? So after reading Rise of the Warrior Cop and seeing how much money comes back to Georgia from the feds, if they're not...
I think it's to a lesser degree. In the same way that if there's, I don't know, 10 people who are going to attack me and I get rid of 5 of them, I'm still going to get attacked, but it might not be as bad.
Yeah, it might be just by 5.
Yeah.
Right. So, and as
which is good, but it's an evolution and not a change in paradigm, because there's still going to be, the Matt Gertzels of the world are going to have more influence on our daily lives, because there's going to be some things the federal government doesn't do. So there's still going to be people who are making decisions and taxes that are going to be paid, and law enforcement that's going to enforce some of those laws, because laws are not applied equally.
Well, yeah, and if they're not incentivized and they're unpopular in their localities to begin with.
That's why decentralization is better.
Yeah.
It's still not a paradigm shift. The paradigm shifts could come from that. That could be an avenue towards a paradigm shift, because if you decentralize enough, where do you end up? Well, just with me.
Yeah.
I'd love it if
that's where I'm going.
I'd love it if
it's the path I'm on.
So that's a nice path.
Well, I think when we talk about solutions, I think that that these solutions for humanity, right? The long-term, looking forward type solutions where, hey, we've never tried socialism the right way. It's always been implemented. It's like, I think Jordan Peterson said it best one time. Is like, that is the most narcissistic thing you could possibly ever say. Is, well, if I, basically, had I been in control of the entire situation and had the force of government behind me, I could have done it, to a much better job of implementing socialism. Right? It's all right now. I guess that's kind of me saying the same thing. Is, hey, if I'm in charge of freedom, look, I can do it way better. But the thing is
you don't want to be in charge of anything.
I don't. I want you to have all the power of your own life. I want you to have all the freedom to do what you can do, and play up your gifts that you were born with as much as you can without hurting somebody else.
Well, I take it back. You do want people to be able to voluntarily submit to some kind of control. Like if somebody comes to your gun class, right?
Sure.
You want them to be able to say, okay, I'm going to submit to the knowledge here voluntarily and the rules here voluntarily.
Sure. So yeah. I mean, when you can enter into contracts freely and leave contracts pretty freely.
Sometimes I worry about our conversations in this sense. It's like we always come down to the same conclusion. Like, man, are we boring?
No,
because we just keep on saying like,
no,
we have these long conversations, and then the rabbit hole goes. Well, you know what the solution would be?
The solution,
just a little autonomy.
Well, it's autonomy, but how do you get a population to recognize that? How do you get a population?
You just keep on
spreading
the message out there. Everybody has their own gifts and way of doing it, and I think you have to believe in some kind of purpose in life, higher power, however you want to frame it.
Do you see a shift right now
that keeps you on that path?
Do you see a bigger shift?
There's a continual shift all the time.
I mean, here in the States, abroad, everywhere. Do you see this kind of this unsettling right now of people?
I don't think one person has even close to 0.1% of the capability to assess all what's going on.
I see a lot of unrest right now.
But there's been more unrest in years past. So yeah, I think there is a shift. I think that the truth will always win. So I think the tide is towards good perpetually. Some people would say this makes me some utopian idiot. I don't care. I like it that way. But so yeah, I think the shift is that way. I just don't think I'm capable of assessing like the undulations of good, bad, the transitions, what makes one thing. I think in 100 years we could be in the Matrix, and then 100 years from then, we could have broken through and killed all the robots.
So you agree with me 100%. Perfect. Let's
most of the time.
I'm kidding. We do have. We got all the time we want.
Can we go into one of the podcast ones? I want to get to at least one of them.
What do you got?
Let's see. Do you prefer to hear Ben Shapiro's annoying, whiny voice, or Pod Save America that has Rachel Maddow on it?
Golly. Let's listen to that, dude.
Okay. So we're going to be talking about sex, gender, and race.
Which one?
The Ben Shapiro one.
Oh, I said that.
Oh, dude. That was funny. I didn't catch that. So we're going to be talking about Facebook.
Okay. Facebook and Ben Shapiro.
No. This one is going to be...
Rachel Maddow?
Rachel Maddow, all Facebook.
Right, that dude. Let's go.
Now that we've confused everybody...
Rachel Maddow and Facebook.
She is on Pod Save America, which is an annoying leftist podcast that I listen to multiple times a week because I hate myself. They had Rachel on. She wrote a new book that's about Ukraine and how they're all about oil. It's actually, from a few reviews I read, quite informative about some history of how the oil pipelines work and so forth. But there's a lot of propaganda.
I wouldn't read a recipe written by Rachel Maddow.
I didn't read the book, but I did go on Amazon and read a bunch of reviews.
Like have cookies and forget the sugar. Like, no.
Who needs sugar? And at this point, they've talked about a bunch of stuff. They're talking about this thing that Facebook did. Trump put out an ad attacking Biden, and Facebook was okay with it. First, I will let you guys listen to the ad just because it's good content.
Joe Biden pressured Ukraine to fire its prosecutor.
If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Fact, the prosecutor said he was forced out for leading a corruption probe into Hunter Biden's company. Fact, Democrats want to impeach President Trump for discussing this investigation with Ukraine's president. Fact, Donald Trump won, but Democrats want to overturn the election. Don't let them.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
So we need to invoice Trump's campaign for playing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good ad. Apparently, it's the same guy who does the voice for every political ad in the world, because I've heard that voice a million times.
Joe Biden, yeah.
But the music was exciting. There's actually some of the facts I agree with. Like, Joe Biden did say that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the whole thing
Son
that
of a bitch.
that to me makes it believable. He's like, well, he was going to get fired if he didn't stop, and he got fired. Ha ha ha. Son of a bitch. I don't need much more than that, and the fact that everybody sees what politics is, right? There's nepotism out there. Biden has said now that if he wins, none of his family is going to be is going to be working for the administration.
Yeah, it's just the corrupt.
And I'm like, okay, if there was nothing wrong happening, why did you just say that?
Right.
That seems like a weird reactionary thing to say if nothing bad was happening. So this is the ad that was playing, and this is what the Pod Save America dudes said.
Sad. All right, let's talk about 2020. We learned today that Facebook has denied Joe Biden's request to remove a false Trump ad from its platform that other media outlets like CNN have already refused to run. Facebook's response to the Biden campaign follows its very recent policy change, which allows politicians to run ads that have been already debunked by independent, nonpartisan fact-checkers, a decision that was also heavily criticized by Elizabeth Warren on Tuesday. Warren also noted that the decision came shortly after Mark Zuckerberg met with Donald Trump and called Warren's campaign an existential threat to Facebook. Just last week, the Trump campaign spent $700,000 in a week on Facebook ads, far outspending anyone else on Facebook. So Facebook says that their decision is grounded in their fundamental belief in free expression, respect for the democratic process, and the belief that in mature democracies with the free press, political speech is already arguably the most scrutinized speech there is.
Oh, yeah. So there's a little bit more to listen to afterwards because it's funny. But I did a double take, a literal double. I pressed the podcast like back thing a few times to listen to this again. Facebook did something good. Facebook said, hey, free expression, people are going to be able to put whatever they want on here, and it's already scrutinized enough that if there's this is what they're implying, I guess. If there's lies, people are going to find them. I'm
baffled.
Baffled.
Do you think he means it?
Apparently, because the ad's still up and the leftists are upset about it.
I don't know, man. I just think given the gravity of, at this point in time, if you're going to sit there as an organization, especially Facebook, which is in this weird realm of what it is, like publisher or platform,
Well, it's not just that, it does everything. It's into VR.
Sure, it's a different beast.
It has its own company that does DNA stuff too.
Yeah, it's weird
Scary.
thing, right? But like,
it's listening to us right now.
Yeah, at this point, if they sit there at this level of the game and they knock this thing down, right? Like they knock down this ad that they're getting paid pretty handsomely from. Like $700,000 is pretty good payday.
A week.
Yeah, that's crazy. If they knock this thing down, you want to talk about the political fallout for Facebook.
So what is the structure? What do we call the structure that makes them make that decision based on that fact?
Oh, it's a free market capitalism.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me. It's like, guys, hey, I'm a capitalist. If I got something to do with Facebook, I'm happy to pay you guys. But here's the deal. I'm not going to give you any of my damn money if you're not going to sit there and, at least take these algorithms out of the way of my content reaching at least my followers, right? Like that's a problem. That's why I don't give Facebook money, or I try not to, and because we haven't really done
we've done a few.
Yeah, but that was more campaign related. It really hasn't been.
I mean, the campaign, we probably gave them like $8,000, I think. Total.
I mean, that's a ton of money.
Yeah.
It's a ton of money for a tiny little campaign. And for things like this, like that's if I can get my message to people without algorithms in terms of blocking things, hey, I'm going to use it, man. That's a great thing.
So the free market, as we've said before, is not the solution to everything, but it is a framework where things are known and it tends to, much faster than any other system, bring good outcomes. Here, Zuckerberg does not like Trump. I'm pretty sure everybody knows this.
Yeah.
And yet he came up with this phrasing of free expression and scrutinizing, which is the truth. It actually, they had to, because of the market forces, and they're so big, and there's so many people who support Trump, that they're scared that if they didn't do this, they'd lose market share. Those pressures made them pop out the truth.
And I think
it's pretty hard to get the truth from Facebook.
I think
that's the free market.
I think Trump's campaign does something pretty brilliant there too, right? They don't give them anything that can be misconstrued. Like it is very cut and dry. These are the facts.
Oh, it's a well done campaign,
right? And what I'm saying is if let's just say there was any, there was any fallacies, anything that could even be considered a fallacy within this ad, I don't think it's the same thing for Zuckerberg, right?
Pod Save America host, I forget his name, even though I listened to him. He must not be very personable. Says that this has all been debunked by neutral fact checkers and so forth. And my point is, even if you agree that this is fake, and I think some of it is true, some of it might be not all the truth, you obviously don't have like the title of decider of truths. There's obviously people who think it's real. So it does, like, independent fact checker. I'm sure you could find an independent fact checker who thinks it is true, and an independent fact checker. Like, are we children that we can't just accept? Oh, there's obviously a difference of opinion on basically everything in the known world.
Yeah. Yes.
Why are we trying to, either you're a crazy person and don't understand that, or you're just ignoring the truth because you want to be the one who forcibly institutes
bingo
your truth.
As Star Lord would say, bingo. That's it.
I wouldn't feel honest and truthful and even comfortable in my own skin if I was trying to push a narrative and demonstrably say that it was true when huge chunks, we're talking about possibly a third, maybe half of the population, says it's not true. I'd at least acknowledge, hey, there's a bunch of people who disagree with me. I could make all the arguments. I don't understand why they disagree with me. This obviously, in my opinion, points to this. But just to ignore it and just say, nope, it's obviously false because, and they're stupid independent fact checkers, as if that really kind of exists and so forth. I don't understand how they can feel comfortable in their skin doing that.
I'm going to pull some Banks jiu-jitsu on you right now. You're not normal. You're rare. And it sucks, man. It sucks because these same guys, I remember on one of the podcasts that we did early on where I think you brought Pod Save America, and there was like, it was near Christmas last year, I think. And we went
Sounds vaguely familiar.
We went through a whole bunch of their left versus right surveys, right?
Oh, that was another one. That was
it was somewhere in that time frame.
That was the Cards Against Humanity thing.
Yeah. So
oh yes, I do remember that.
Pod Save America though we played a clip of them, and these guys were talking about the ends justify the means, and
that's right.
That is not who we are. You know, that's the problem is if you can't put principle first and get to where you are trying to get to according to those principles, it's not worth doing. Like, these guys are not that way, man. These guys are the ends justify the means. Do whatever the hell you have to do to be in power. Do whatever you have to do to be successful. Do whatever you need to do in this world. Don't give, a rat's ass about, Joe Schmo who this is going to affect negatively. Like, let's go. Giddy up. That's who they are.
So in Monday's episode, you were talking about how you're watching The Office, and it's like cringeworthy, awkward humor that makes you feel awkward.
Yeah.
When I know what's happening, right? When I'm listening to these people who are not like they're not dumb, right? They know what they're doing.
Yeah, they're very smart.
And as you said, they've said in the past that ends justify the means.
Yep.
This is not the awkward feeling. It's like an uncomfortable feeling of knowing that. And it not being acknowledged. Like, it makes me feel bad that they are knowingly, at least most of them, maybe one of them is retarded. At least most of them are knowingly lying.
Yeah.
Like, that's a weird feeling.
No,
I don't know exactly how to cope with that.
I'll tell you right now, it's funny to me because I sit there and I go, yeah, if you're in a fair fight, your tactics suck, right? Like, that's a motto that I live by in my life. However, like, that's a physical fight. Like, if I'm in a physical fight, I'm going to do whatever I can to destroy somebody.
Well, if you're defending yourself, things change, because if you're defending yourself and you kill somebody, it's not murder, it's self-defense. That's why we have different words.
Sure.
So yeah. But in the battle of ideas,
no, they don't care, man.
I'd prefer to make myself vulnerable, because the truth is so powerful that even when it's vulnerable, it's still true. Like, you can't change it, right? You just can't.
Yeah.
Than to lie and like manipulate and omit the truth and kind of pretend that there's
what does that say about your character too? What does it say about your character where you cannot carry out the thought process of, listen, I know our ideas cannot compete with these people. Like, their ideas sound too good, right? Like, this personal
I think
freedom.
that's part of what, I'm sorry to interrupt, that's part of what makes me uncomfortable is I don't know. Are they just psychopaths? Do they actually think that our ideas are good and that's why they want to acknowledge it?
Yeah.
Or are they oblivious to both of those, and because I think some of them are, and just completely indoctrinated into something to where they can't think? Like, I'd like to know, because some of those people I should have a different reaction to. The ones who are psychopaths and knowingly doing it, well, they're just evil, and the other ones, like, I want to lay out as clear a path for them to understand what's happening here.
Yeah, I don't understand how you get to that point where you recognize that you cannot compete with these. So you have to say things like the ends justify the means and just do this kind of stuff so that we are powerful or our business is successful, whatever that is. And understanding that because your ideas aren't as good, you're going to have to use force to get people to where you want them to be in the first place. And how can that be a good thing? Like, I don't want to ever force somebody to believe what I want them to believe. I want to win the war of ideas and have discussions and that kind of thing. Whereas these guys don't give a damn about that. What they want to do is sit there and say, hey, listen, we got the power. Now you're going to come along for the ride. It's much like what we were just talking about with Brexit, right?
That's what I'm saying. We always come to the same freaking conclusions.
How does that, in retarded development or psychopathic type behavior, this idea that you can sit there and implement force on people, that where do people get comfortable with that idea
That's what I don't understand.
of their own benevolence is somehow grand and just and something that they can enact on other people? How?
Well, I think some of them see this is the breakdown of what the different things are. I think some of them think they're doing it for the betterment of other people. But here's a question that just came into mind: Have you ever cheated at a game?
Of course.
Okay. Did you feel good about cheating?
When I was a kid.
Like when you won. So I've cheated at games when I was a kid, and even then, like actively then, when I would win by cheating,
yeah, you don't feel great about it.
I wouldn't feel good.
No. You know what I felt good about once?
But are there people out there who feel okay about cheating that like don't care whatsoever?
Dude, here, all right. I'll play your game. Let's say I go into Vegas and I cheat them, and I walk out of there with $1 million. Damn right, I feel good. Why? Because I just screwed those bastards who are cheating everybody else, right? Like, and I've got some financial gain about it.
So there's our answer.
But
it's a series. It's a series of justifications that lead you to feel good about it. Because you said that, you smiled, I smiled. I was like,
yeah, man, we're screwing those guys, right? Like,
and sometimes, like, I know there's a lot of people who have justifications for like stealing from Walmart and big companies. They're like, these guys are screwing the little guy anyways. It's very easy to like lose your
compass.
Yeah,
that's your moral compass. I mean, that's
our bearings. I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, listen, am I ever going to go into Vegas and win $1 million even if I could? No, I'm not going to, just because I don't want to take a dirt nap from screwing the mafia. Like, no thanks. You guys keep tricking those dumb people that play your games out there. No offense to you gamblers, but that's not my way. But these people that will sit there and say, yeah, hey, you know what? These are like, now we're the casino, right? We're the casino, and these guys are going to come in and they're going to screw us. Like, we're going in, we're going to screw these guys, we're going to take their money, and we're going to go do whatever the hell we want to afterwards with it, right? Like, that's who they think we are. Like, we are such bad people that we believe in these individualist ideas for society.
How have they been convinced that we're such bad people?
I don't get it, man. Because I don't want to do anything to them. Hey, go live your life. You want to go live in a hippie commune? You want to go, you guys want to go and make your little Marxist healthcare for all, food for everybody, school for everybody. Like, go do it.
That's part of the solution.
Please show me how you're going to do it.
So like,
show me on the micro scale. Go take your little community over here and go show me how you're going to do this.
Even that, like, I don't even want to tell them what to do. Like, I just want nothing to do with it.
No, that's exactly right. But
it's weird. Like, I really would. I hope I can see, and I probably don't see a bunch of them, how they are so convinced that we're bad people.
Yeah.
But people also just have preconceptions. Like, even in schools, you got people who are like, oh, he's the bully, and he's like the jock, and he's the something, and we're just all judged really fast.
Yeah. Huh. Weird, isn't it?
There's a little bit more to this. I thought their commentary was pretty funny. So.
What do we think about that reasoning from Facebook?
I don't think it's good. I don't think it's very smart.
Stop. Pause real quick. I don't think it's good, and I don't think it's smart. Why does he think that?
He might not go into it. Don't ask too much.
I'm going to tell you right now because it hurts their ends, right? It hurts their ends.
Sure.
For these guys that have already said the ends justify the means, then it hurts their ends for Facebook to do this. And that's all the reasoning he needs for this. That's as shallow as it gets.
Probably.
You shouldn't propagate misinformation and
stop
lies in front of millions of people.
Stop. All right, yeah, so Zuck, now your boy who has launched tons and tons of algorithms to make sure that a lot of conservative type liberty voices aren't heard in the first place. Like, he's already said, hey, there's nothing wrong with this thing. It's all good. It's factual. It's been checked. We're good. For this guy to sit there and go, I'm going to reject your facts, Zuckerberg, on this piece, you're sitting there going like, golly, man, like I'm going to ignore your facts. I'm just going to say whatever the hell I need to say to justify my ends again. It's this really vicious, self-loathing circle that they live in. It's awful.
It's kind of making me think. I say sometimes that politics is just part of life. It's not actually politics aside, right? It's part of life.
Politics,
you can't really ignore it. It's not. It's kind of imitating politics, or politics is imitating life, because this life is like, okay, we've got to get all the radicals out of here. So you've got like the far right, even some of the far left. I think a lot of the liberty stuff, it was the bigger target of Facebook. But then, just like in the political theater where the Democrats and Republicans are allowed to like say that the other side is evil, they're allowed to be there because they play the puppets of, oh, we have to hate each other. But just a little bit of it. Yeah. Just what we allow, which is going to be Trump and the Republicans in a general sense. Just none of the other small things. And that way we continue to hate each other and so forth. I wonder if Zuckerberg, I think it's more of the free market influences, which is, I'm just going to lose too much. But it's funny how that's how it plays out is, the margins and the fringes are pushed out. And unfortunately, people kind of suck and they tend to go towards the most mainstream thing. The mainstream thing is one side is against the other side. And so it's simpler. You don't have to think about it.
I think it's even
much
more insidious than that. And I think that is listen, we're running fringes right now, right? Like, these people who are in government, I don't care if it's the Hillary Clintons, I don't care if it's the Beto's, I don't care if it's the Donald Trumps. These guys are fringe. Like, they are extremists. They are fringe worthy of all sorts. And really, the mainstream people in America are the ones who were completely left out. Like, that's for me, that's what this is. Because, I mean, how many people have turned off politics in America? More and more and more people who are disenfranchised with the parties, they're leaving in, I mean, droves and droves. Like, they're just like, screw this. Like, these guys are all narcissistic, self-absorbed. I know I'm repeating myself, but like, that's who these people are. And the people that they're highlighting, we just don't want their extremism highlighted without having our extremism highlighted, right? Like, or let's just get rid of their extremism and only have our extremism. That's what it looks like to me.
A little bit. Here, I'll finish that. I think there's one more funny thing that's said.
Make money.
Billions. I mean, I guess they would say, look, and we should say it's not just Facebook that's done this. The ad is on YouTube. It's on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Fox ran it as well.
It's had 5 million views on Facebook already.
Yeah, I mean, it's out there.
Yeah.
And Twitter and YouTube are basically saying the same thing. I guess from their perspective, their argument would be, how do we fact check this, right? Like, so, we've had, the Washington Post, right? Glenn Klessler at the Washington Post, the fact checker there. He's given Obama 4 Pinocchios on stuff, and we've freaked out about it, right? And we said, that's totally wrong. This is correct. He's imagine if we had an ad like that we put a lot of money behind, and we thought it was right, and we thought the fact checker was wrong, and then Facebook took them all down. So I guess how do these platforms actually conduct fact-checking in a fair way that makes...
So I want to continue listening, but here he's actually kind of acknowledging, without acknowledging that there's a problem. He's like, well, what if this happened to us? So that's
something they've really never had to think about.
That's quite interesting. That he I feel like I could have a little bit of a conversation with him at this point.
Yeah,
like,
man,
what if how about we just lay off each other? Right?
Or, I mean,
just you leave me alone and leave me alone.
How about
we don't have that problem?
How about we all advocate for a better marketplace for ideas, right? Like, Facebook, stop it. Just stop. Just let everything out there, because that's
that's kind of what Facebook is doing, which is why I'm like,
it's doing it on this particular case.
Well, no, it also issued a statement in general saying that political ads are just going to be allowed.
I believe them.
Okay, I don't necessarily believe them, but they're not a person, they're just an entity. So when an entity goes in the right direction, I'll just be happy.
Yeah, no, hey, and that's the thing is, listen, guys on the left, you guys at Pod Save America, if this is just dawning on you that this could happen to you and everybody else out there, this is why we've always advocated, hey, listen, don't put the government in charge of this, because it's not going to work out the way you think it's going to work out. Your team isn't going to win. My team isn't going to win. The state's going to win, and they're going to screw everybody. Like that's what we've always advocated is, listen, if this is just dawning on you for the first time, understand this is why it is wrong for either way. And then here's the other thing is, Facebook, do whatever the hell you want. But let's also have that, hopefully someday soon, Jordan Peterson's, social networking site is up there, and we can start doing things that are not, blocked and algorithmed out and things like that, where, if you've got followers, people who are in your list see your messages or see your post or something like that.
It just might take time. That's when something's the first on the market.
Yeah.
It's gonna gain a lot of power by amassing all that attention first, amassing all that money first, and it might take time.
Yeah,
take it down.
12 years I think I've been on Facebook.
12 years. Wow.
12 years, and so in the long run, that's new. It's a new thing.
Yeah.
MySpace was here and there. It's gone, and Facebook I think might do the same thing eventually. I'm really looking forward to the day where something better comes.
It might. Okay, let's listen to hopefully the end of this. I didn't remember. It was so interesting.
The same way every major network does it. Like, figure out a process and stick to it. Like, CNN rejected the ad.
CNN clearly did it.
Surely they could find the resources to figure this out. And by the way, like, they are just so constipated on all things politics, right? Like, they get beat up by the right, and then they get beat up by the left, and they're terrified of being called partisan. So in the end, what gets sacrificed is accuracy. So my advice to them would be, stop running political ads.
Ding, ding, ding,
it's
ding,
a
ding.
drop in the bucket.
That's exactly it.
It's a drop in the bucket.
Exactly.
You don't want the headache? Get rid of them.
That's exactly it. And I have this fantasy that there was that Facebook would recognize that it is powerless before its own failure, that it can't fix this problem, and no matter, even if they did want to try to fix it, they can't get there, they can't think themselves or engineer themselves out of this, and so we'll have a moratorium on all political advertising.
So yeah, I totally believe she had a dream about this. Freaking liar.
But a dream. It might have been a daydream, but it was still a dream.
Now I remember, because my notes aren't great, why I wanted to listen to it all the way to there. He becomes a little bit honest. He's like, oh, well, what if it happened to us? That's kind of acknowledging that, hey, maybe the reality is that there's a disagreement on what a fact is, a specific fact is. But then they go like full crazy and are like, no political ads? Do they not understand? They're not CNN. It's the free market. Facebook wants to make money. If they start becoming a curated platform, then that defeats the purpose of the people being their own curators, right?
Yep.
And if they don't do political ads, that defeats a freaking metric ton of what Facebook is. It's people arguing about politics.
Yeah. Better there than in the street sometimes.
So even like, this is when I think they're just not as intelligent, because I would think some people could see a drop in the bucket. Not allowing politics on Facebook would not be a drop in the bucket. That's
$700,000 from one campaign alone. I know it's the president.
Billion. So after this, which we're not going to listen to the whole thing, because like I've listened to this whole podcast already.
We're also running up on an hour and a half soon.
That was not the plan, but we'll have more content for you later.
Yeah.
But then they go on to say, well, they made like $60 billion last year, so that's a drop in the bucket. But I am pretty sure these Facebook people, who I think are more intelligent, even if some of them might be evil, are able to say, well, okay, well, what happens if we don't allow politics on Facebook? Then that's what people use a lot of Facebook for. So if we do that, we're going to lose people who are on Facebook. Man,
the market is not going to support this. The market is not going to support a move away from political speech, period. It's not going to happen.
This is why I like Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan will, if he was there, he could have had one opinion, but still bring all that up.
Yeah.
Because, but they just seem comfortable leaving so much of the conversation that is necessary just out of the conversation.
Would love to have sit downs with these guys, like on a regular basis. If you're liberal and you're in our audience and you want to talk about this kind of stuff, I would love to have you on the show.
We need to have some politicians on the show. I would love to. I thought at first you meant like have a conversation with Rogan. I was like, yes, please.
I think we just put it out locally. Hey, you're liberal, you're Democrat, and you got some ideas. Come on, let's sit down and
I like that.
Let's sit down and start building some bridges and talking about what we can talk about, and then discuss things that we disagree on in a positive type situation and manner, and show people we can do this kind of stuff, and that we're not monsters. I don't want to eat babies. I don't think you want to eat babies. Like let's start working on this without these jackasses at the national and I don't know the aristocratic level.
That's why my leftist sisters can talk with me, because like they love me, they know I love them, and that I wouldn't hurt a fly. Like my middle sister is honestly and truthfully puzzled how I can support guns, and she'll say it, she'll be like, but you're the sweetest and you wouldn't hurt anybody. Like, why would you support guns? It breaks her brain. I see her brain trying to put two things together.
Do you know what's happening in my mind right now?
What?
I could totally solve that for you, right? Let's just say you.
Should I kill a baby?
No, you and your sister are somewhere, right? And hey, let's prove to your sister right now how this works, right?
Oh, have somebody attack and defend with a gun? Or something?
Yeah, couple caps. I'm not saying
I don't even know if anything. I don't even know if that would wake her up, because she knows that my mom defended my little sister and I once.
Yeah, no, I'm totally kidding. I would never put somebody through a traumatic experience like that. Of course. But I could definitely explain it to her. Hey, listen, if I were to sit here and you were to sit here and we were having let's just say a nice meal, and some deranged clown walks through that door with an axe and he just starts lobbing heads.
I think she just thinks that we can build a world where that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. No, there's evil, there's murderers. Yeah, blah, we're going down a rabbit hole.
Of course. You think it's the end of the rabbit holes for today?
I think we're about at the end of the rabbit hole, though. Is there anything left from old Pod Save America? Because
from Pod Save America, there's tons. I listen to it every week.
I'm so not impressed with these guys, man. Like, it's so easy to sit here and punch holes. It's just super easy.
I'm sure they could punch holes in us. Maybe I've actually thought that it would be because I would love if we were part of a network, right?
Well, then
like
teach
me. Like a Liberty network, network or something. But I've thought, hey, what if we were like the nice guys who disagreed with the other guys on some kind of leftist network?
Yeah.
Like I would enjoy my whole I actually prefer
I could do it day
to liberals.
I could do it day
than
out.
To conservatives.
Damn right.
Because I'm softy. I care about people. I want to understand, and I'm super what's the word? Not touchy feely.
Empathetic?
No, when you say that like liberals are something heart, bleeding heart.
Bleeding hearts.
I consider myself a bleeding heart.
I do too. I don't mean that in the wrong way.
No. I mean I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and here's the other thing is I just like to debate and talk. I want to learn. I mean, that's basically what it gets down to. Is okay. What am I missing here? Why the hell are you the way you are? Why do you think this? Because when I look at causality and why history has, I don't know, given us all these lessons, and you can't see very clearly who the evil is in these situations or what the evil is in these situations, like. I just fundamentally disagree with you on a lot of things. But if we can sit here and boil it down to little things, right? And now we can start affecting culture in our local areas, in our state, and things like that. I think that has tremendous value because we can start to actually move things, do things, and get a lot of it out of the way in terms of the redundancy and the just the tyranny in general. I mean, super easy.
Agreed. Well, before we go, this is what I will request then, just idea that I had off the top of my head. If you know of a leftist-leaning podcast, maybe kind of same level as us, who seems like an honest person, at least somewhat logical, introduce them to us. Maybe we can connect and do like a shared podcast where we
Facebook, Twitter,
where we
you name it.
Can like talk and discuss ideas, maybe on a regular basis if you like. But I would love to have somebody of equal level to kind of bounce it off of.
Do you know any in Georgia by any chance?
A podcast like that?
Yeah,
I don't.
Boy, cornering the market here.
There's so many podcasts out there. It's kind of hard to find what you need. Because I'd love to do it with the Pod Save America people, but they're not going to take me seriously.
Not yet.
Exactly.
Not yet.
But if you'd like to help us get to that point, you can support us on Patreon. You can support us financially. It allows us to pay for our costs. You'll get some awesome stickers, which we're late on this quarter or this cup. We don't really have a
sticker company's behind. Trust me, Banks has been I know how Banks is, and he loves these things. And one of the things that he tries to get out is the letters and the stickers. So I'm going to defend Banks here. I know the hard work that he puts in. But yes, you can go and support us at patreon.com/rebellionpod. Yes, and if you want to bring something to our attention, info@rebellionpod.com. Send it to us. We'll either post it, talk about it, whatever. And outside of that, we love your reviews. We need as many as we can get. Like I said, we're still rolling up here on 100.
We're 2 away from 100 on the podcast, on the Apple Podcast app, guys. 2 away from 100.
Get on
3
there.
digits.
Get on there and leave us a review. We really appreciate it. At this point, if you've listened more than 5 episodes, I feel like you kind of owe us. I'm just going to say that. Anyway. Good?
Sounds like a contract.
Yeah, it is. Thank you guys all for sharing your lives with us and tuning in, sharing the program with your friends and family and out there on social media. Until next time, this has been The Rebellion, your place for peace, liberty, and free markets.
We love you. We need you.
Peace.
Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff.